Hey everybody. So today I'm going to really talk to you about, in order to give you some clarity, what it takes with the handling of any kind of a project, any kind of a domain you are from, right? From different four project phases point of view that we can consider as a framework to handle. So I will create today each phase segment in terms of the breaking down to different project phases to understand what it takes to have different four segments and also discuss some of the frameworks that we can quickly leverage, right? So first, before we deep dive into our individual segments, let's understand. First of all, planning activities, and then you get to the stage of building up, you get to the stage of implementation, and then you get to the stage of closeout, right? But what all do you have in terms of a planning activities itself? So you really need to determine what exactly is the problem to solve, whether you're in the HR domain or you're in the selling cars domain, or you have to change the design of the car completely, or if you're from the IT background point of view, you have a we're going to discuss one of the use cases probably. I'll pick on let's say you have to migrate some of the servers to the new infrastructure. So what it takes to really break down that particular project, right? Let's understand. And so once you realize what is the real problem that you have to solve, you have to identify the stakeholders. This is all in the planning phase point of view and defining that particular project objectives. Then you have to scope out what is the scope of the individual objective, the resources. And I meant to say resources, different stakeholders point of view who are going to implement it or involved in terms of a review process point of view, deliverable process point of view, and the major task involved. You have to have clarity with the scope, the resources, and the major task involved in order to understand the ETA, the estimated time delivery context point of view, how long it might take to deliver this particular major task. And you should also be able to prepare for the trade-offs, right? When you're actually planning. Now, once you have clarity with the planning, then you get to the stage of build up, right? What do you mean by build up? Like once you have the clarity with estimation, scope, and all that, and you have approval in terms of different stakeholders, be it like a technical point of view, sales team, product team, the leadership who's going to actually evaluate the cost involved in the project. Everyone have given the approval for it. The next phase come with the request to the build up. So you have to make sure you assemble your team, right? You plan your assignments based on the scoping evaluation was done during the planning phase. Then you create the schedule. Then you hold off an official kickoff meeting. Then you actually develop a budget for it. Now, the approval for phases with the different stakeholders will be the combination of immediate planning phase and the build-up phase before you get to the implementation phase. It is this during the phase of planning and build-up, you also get to evaluate if there's any risk evaluation to be able to consider, right? So you prepare your project objectives, you then scope, and then identify stakeholders, everything in phase one. Phase two is all about make sure your team is in aligned with whatever you've planned. You plan assignments to a specific stakeholders, create the schedule, hold a kickoff meeting, and budget planning. Then we get to implementation. So that is where you need to make sure you have a control of about what you've designed and how you have going to align your design with different edge cases plus the matter requirements. All of it needs to be evaluated, including the dependencies aspect, hoping your dependencies are already evaluated before you start getting into the phase of implementation, right? So you monitor and control process and budget. Then continuously you report your progress. You can hold your weekly team meetings. You manage problems. Now I'm telling all of this in high level, but we'll get to the phase, each phase individually, right? Then final phase is point of view like the closeout. What does it take? First, now you've come through the journey of planning, building up, implementing. Now, in terms of the end of the closeout phase, you have to evaluate what is the current performance, progress, risk involved in order to close the project. You have to have frequent debrief with the team or to be able to get to the final deliverable release planning context. You have to be able to develop a post-evaluation report for different stakeholders at different levels. What's the budget? What's the number of hours that's been involved with the velocity point of view? When it comes to budget, whether it's infrastructure cost or in terms of the resource budget cost or any tool, the third-party tool investment cost or ongoing expense for anything for that matter, right? So all of it needs to be considered. Now, what it takes in, what are the key skills that you have to consider in order to execute any kind of a project? You should be able to have like a task analysis, right? You have to have analytical skills to build upon, understand what are the some of the cost benefit analysis of with different trade-off options. Process analysis depending on what kind of a task and process is being chosen upon. Team building, delegating, which is very important. Negotiating. What kind of skill have you recruited to in order to deliver this project? Best communication that can be considered consistently throughout the journey of the project. What kind of a supervising mechanisms you want to incorporate at different levels? Leading, what kind of examples you want to set with leading and others having to set with the different seniority levels point of view. So leading, motivating, communication frameworks. How can you resolve the conflicts that will come across throughout different stages of the project? What kind of a problem solving skills are you anticipating to leverage throughout the different stage of the project? How can you follow through for different dependencies that you have? Planning obviously throughout all of it is necessary, right? And then with the tools, I think some of the tools that I would want to consider, maybe we'll consider one case study also, is work breakdown structure, WBS. Scheduling tools you can consider in terms of Gantt chart, whatever that works, right? And even for post evaluation report point of view, you can consider any kind of analysis tools that works for you, right? So mapping all of it at different stages is very much needed, right? Now, stay tuned. Let's probably watch in next video. I'll briefly create a planning approach point of view, what we can consider with one or two real time examples that we can get through, right? All right. See you soon.